I have been excited for this movie all year, and now I'm not excited to talk about it, because if I was going to lose subs, it's right here. And not just because I pronounce these movies as biopics, but I'll save all that for the second half. This week, Bonhoeffer will be in theaters, and I cannot urge you to see this strongly enough. I know this sounds cliche, but it is a powerful and thought-provoking movie, and it's going to ruffle some feathers. It tells the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pastor in Germany who found himself at odds with both the church and the Nazi government after the two began to merge under Adolf Hitler's leadership. This is another one from Angel Studios, who became a well-known name last summer when Sound of Freedom hit theaters, doing impressive numbers and getting some journalists to self-snitch as they accidentally tried to downplay the horrors of child trafficking in order to smear that movie. It was a win-win.
Your entire life is garbage.
Now, biopics are tough because a direction has to be chosen, and not everybody's going to be happy. You either lay the person's whole life out with no real theme, like Bradley Cooper did with Maestro, which was absolutely dreadful, or you highlight a certain theme and you focus on the parts of the life that show that while ignoring other parts, and that's going to bug some people. This movie has two themes: Bonhoeffer finding a faith that is more than mere religion and ceremony, and his fight against the Christian nationalism that gripped the German church, causing them to spout massive heresies and look the other way while the Nazis committed genocide and mass murder. It also brings up hard questions about the Christian role in government and response to being governed, as Bonhoeffer eventually joins one of the plots to assassinate Hitler. The movie doesn't shy away from pointing out that this directly contradicts his earlier statements in life about respecting rulers, with one friend calling him out to his face, and he replies, "That was before Hitler." Now, this is a topic everyone should delve into, because you'll often see his famous quote, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." This is very similar to another oft-repeated quote, "We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the oppressed. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." That quote's a little longer, it goes on, but that's usually what you see accompanying political activism on all sides, and this is what is interesting to discuss about Bonhoeffer. I think it's pretty easy to say that he was correct in opposing Hitler. I mean, it's literally Hitler. It's one of the few times that sentence is actually correct. But when it's not literally Hitler, what do you define as oppression? Like, at what point does rescuing the tormented become you just trying to get your way? You becoming the tormentor? It's not an easy question. The movie's approach to these topics is excellent. It's told as a series of flashbacks, Bonhoeffer reflecting on key moments in his life from a Nazi prison. At first, he's thinking of his time in Harlem in the early 1930s. While attending Union Theological Seminary, he makes a friend, Frank Fisher, who introduces him to three things. First, they go to a jazz club, and the classically trained pianist Bonhoeffer is awestruck by the music. Then Frank takes Dietrich to church, and he experiences a sermon and worship completely unlike the formal liturgy that he learned in Germany. Finally, Frank takes him to a whites-only side of town to find out firsthand what life was like for Black Americans. Here, Bonhoeffer discovers some things about his faith. One, that it can't be a religious series of memorized steps. It needs to be felt. It has to be active. He also sees the need to get outside the church and do something for people that need serving right now. As the movie progresses, he returns home to find that the German church has been seduced by the Nazi party and effectively taken over by Nazi sympathizers. Now he begins to preach against them. He writes articles and books against the growing relationship between the church and the party. Here is where I think the movie does a great job of showing the ideas at play, but unfortunately can be a bit confusing on the timetable and how Bonhoeffer was viewed by the state. The movie gave me the impression that Bonhoeffer was basically on the run from the Nazis for a decade, when that isn't entirely the case. It sort of ramps up over the 30s. The movie does show us his undercover work, and he finally does join the German government and works to undermine them from the inside. Again, times are a little fuzzy. I did not get the impression that he was doing this for 4 years, which is what he really did. Bonhoeffer achieves its goals. The movie looks great, the acting and dialogue are well done, and its ideas will stick with you and give you something to chew on for days after you leave the theater. I cannot emphasize strongly enough that you go see it. I reached out to Angel to get an early review copy of this, and they obliged, and they were going to provide like an affiliate link to buy tickets, and I asked them to make that link point to their subscription service instead. If you are interested in seeing this movie, you should just sign up for their service. I have it. I pay for it. I'm not getting anything if you sign up with the link. it's just a good service. You get all their movies to stream. Your kids can watch the Tuttle Twins, which my kids want to watch. That is a kids show about capitalism, basically, and they're extremely entertained by it. But the big bonus is that Angel Guild members get 2 free tickets to all their theatrical releases. So you can get a great streaming service and see their movies for free and vote on their future projects. I do hope that you see this, and its 2 big ideas sit with you. The first is that your faith doesn't live on a page. It's not a thing that you say about yourself. It's a thing that you are. It's a thing that you do. I would encourage you to get a copy of this book, The Cost of Discipleship, written by Bonhoeffer, likely in 1936 while he was teaching at an underground resistance seminary. This book is challenging and also inspiring, and Bonhoeffer does not mince words. Keep in mind his experience in America and that he was writing this while being watched by the Nazis and seeing how they were cowing the church into submission to ignore their anti-Semitic laws. This book is downright accusatory. It doesn't contain suggestions for living your best life. It is a forceful demand that you follow Christ unequivocally, and you do it with every single cell of your body. Chapter 1 immediately kicks in the door and reminds the reader that grace is simultaneously free and will cost you your entire life. Often Jesus is referred to as Lord and Savior. In America right now, we're a little far on the Savior side. This book is a firm lesson of his lordship. Chapter 2 doesn't let up or give you any credit. He opens it up by saying the call of Jesus is all that matters and you will follow it, and your decision to follow isn't even something you get points for. This man's words make Paul Washer look downright gentle. If Dietrich were alive today and someone told him that they weren't in a season for that right now, I get the impression that he'd slap him. I think you should read this book. The second big theme in this movie is Christian nationalism and its disastrous effects. The year does not matter, the place doesn't matter, the person doesn't matter. I'm recording this right now in October, and this will still be valid no matter who wins the American election next month. Now, let's get on the same page real quick, because Christians tend to lean a little bit to the right, and it's an election year, and this movie is about a pastor's fight against literally Hitler. I shouldn't have to say that Donald Trump isn't literally Hitler, but I guess I do, because apparently everyone we don't like is Hitler. During his campaign, Obama was too. I recall Mark Levin making the comparison often. Comparing your political opponents to Hitler is stupid. Now that we got that straight, I'm going to say some mean things about Donald. And even though I've made that disclaimer, I'm still going to get accused of saying he's Hitler. Many Christians in America are getting caught up in religious nationalism, and it is horrifying. During his first campaign in 2016, I saw some truly awful pictures about Donald Trump on Facebook.
Which was the style at the time.
I saw unironic comparisons between Trump and King David. I saw this man referred to as John the Baptist 2.0 because he was going to reinvigorate the church. I saw pictures with Trump and Jesus where Jesus was saying that Obama had kicked him out and Trump was going to let him back into America. Look, if you like Trump's policies, that's cool. I've heard many defenses of them, especially his economic and foreign policy. Some are very convincing. But if you tell me that this guy is a godly leader, a man after God's own heart, I advise you to make sure that I am not actively taking a drink when you say that. Is there forgiveness? Oh, absolutely. Has he ever shared his testimony? No.
So I just got one more, because you used the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. Shockingly, because people are so shocked when they find this out, I'm Protestant, I'm Presbyterian. And I go to church and I love God and I love my church.
1 minute later.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed, okay?
Can God use even the worst people, like Paul? You bet. But if we're going to try the Trump of Tarsus argument, I got to see something, right? I need to know what his 3 years in Arabia looks like. I'm going to need to see where he has ever introduced himself as the lowest of the low, the worst of sinners, a slave to Christ. I'm going to need to see more than a picture of him standing in front of a church holding a Bible like it's a tourist photo. And it's a serious problem that we see members of the church treating him like something other than a mere politician. This is not God's anointed. It's not just him. We had Jerry Falwell Jr. allowing Liberty University to be the location for Ted Cruz's presidential campaign announcement. Guys, these ideas are horrible. If you like policies, awesome. Support the person and their policies. If you think a politician is going to help the church, you are sorely mistaken. And if you think any government action is required before the church can do its job, I don't know, I'll probably see you at Christmas service and then again at Easter, I bet. It's very clear that whatever God you have in mind is smaller than the government. Good luck with that. Go see Bonhoeffer. I think you'll like this movie, and you'll get something beyond simply entertainment. Become a member of the Angel Studios Guild, and you get free tickets plus a great streaming service. There's a link below. Are you interested in this movie? Have you seen it? What do you think? Do you have thoughts on the man Dietrich himself or his written works? Talk to me and each other in the comments. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.